the buyer demand kind of drops off. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I will say that I agree with what I'm seeing with what Sly is saying, because I had 4 phone calls just yesterday of people saying the same thing. We've been waiting, we've been watching prices, nothing's dropping. What are we waiting for at this point? Like, we just need to get going. So I agree. I'm seeing a certain level of like acceptance of just, okay, well, this is where we're at.
This is the new norm.
This is what we need, and waiting for some miracle to happen in order to obtain the things we need doesn't look like it's going to happen. Can we start having these conversations and get going? And that's definitely what I've been seeing as well.
And I've seen that, and I have a client that for this will be the 3rd year now that he's been waiting for the rates to come down and the prices to come down. And he was one time under contract at just over $300,000 with a 4.625% rate, and that same house now, almost 3 years later, is probably $400,000 at 7% rates, and he's been paying $3,000 a month in rent. For 3 years now.
Sure.
So. Yeah, this is a new norm. I think people are like saying, you know what? It's not going to get any better in the short term. Inflation is still here, although I think it's starting to diminish a little bit. We'll talk about that in the mortgage minute with some of the recent numbers, but I think that's a new norm, and people are just saying, you know what? We may never see 3% again. What are we doing?
Right, and you know what? Waiting for things to have dropped might have paid off for that client that you were talking about, right? Like, how would he have known necessarily back then, right? So like. And that's why I always tell people, like, the right time to do something is when you need it, because there's no guarantee of a payoff of waiting, and there's no guarantee that it'll get worse. Like, we don't know what it's going to look like. It could be way worse 3 years later, and it could be harder to even get in. So, like, if this is what your needs are calling for today, let's have that conversation today and work within your parameters.
It's just like trying to time the stock market. It's impossible. So I got good news for Christin, the 4 people who called you, and for Sly, the buyers that you're working with. Christin, we're going to be addressing winning buyer contract strategies on this episode.
Oh, yes.
So things that you can do as a buyer to help your offers get accepted more. And Sly, for the buyers, and I think this is kind of what we're seeing, is because inventory is starting to climb, buyers are being a little bit more discriminating in what they buy. You know? So it's before like, okay, I don't care what's wrong with it. We're just going to buy it. We need that place.
Right.
So now there's some more options out there. So if you're coming into the market as a buyer, now is a good time because there's more inventory, less competition, less bidding wars, more opportunity to get your offers accepted. And I'm a big believer that, just like you said, Christin, the best time to buy is when it's the most important to you.
Right.
And I'd rather you buy today and then get in at a mortgage rate today. And then hopefully maybe you could refinance in the future. But what you've protected yourself is against the price inflation of that house from going up another 5 to 10 to 15%.
Right.
And then, God willing, rates do come down back into either the 5s or the 6s. Well, then, do your refi. And that's not advice because obviously it depends on a lot of factors.
Of course.
Right.
But that opportunity
But that's a good
exist.
game plan.
Yes. Okie doke. So we did run out of time because, Christin, you're just so talkative and wordy.
You're welcome. Blessed you with all of my thoughts.
It helps. It really helps to fill the 2 hours. No joke. It's really awesome. But we're going to be right back after these words.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial. Back to Unlocking Lake County with your host, Dick Barr.
And welcome back. You're listening to Unlocking Lake County on 98.3 The Life FM WRLR. I'm your host, Dick Barr, here with the beautiful Christin Kaufman.
Hello, everybody.
Sly Marinca.
Hello.
And that's our way of making sure everyone's mic's working. So a little bit of a radio insider information. We are going to get right into our Mortgage Minute with Sly.
Here is the Mortgage Minute with Sly Marinca and Cross Country Mortgage on Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr.
Thank you. Good news this week.
I love good news.
Well, welcome to the teeter-totter of mortgage interest rates, where one week it's the end of the world and rates are going to 10%. The next week it's like, let's hold off for a minute. Last week, if you remember, the rates were near 7.4% was the national average. This week they're down to 7.07%, so that's a pretty big drop in 1 week.
Nice.
The 10-year Treasury yield last week was around 4.6%. This week it's down to 4.29%. So again, a pretty big swing in 1 week. So what the heck happened? I don't know if you remember, but last week when we met on Wednesday, there was a big inflation report, a big inflation reading that was coming out on Friday, May 31st. And basically that report came in line with expectations. It did not... the inflation reading did not come in higher than what was expected for April. So
Sorry.
Still going. It was that good.
It's worthy. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Yep. So, So basically, the number came in line. It was 0.3% for the month of April, and that's kind of what was expected. So, when the market anticipates it, that's when things kind of that's a good sign. It's when inflation comes in way hotter than what was expected. That's when rates go up because the markets think the Fed is going to keep on raising the rates. And it just goes to show you. I mean, the markets are fully ready for lower rates. I mean, they're expecting this to happen. It's built in. And that's why even though it wasn't a big miss and it wasn't like inflation came in way lower, it just came in at what was expected. Rates did come down significantly. And then
that's great.
Add fuel to that fire, just this week, the May ADP jobs report came in lower than expected. So again, that's not a great thing for the economy. And typically when the economy's not doing great, that's when the Fed has to lower rates, right, to kind of boost things up. So the May ADP jobs number came out that 152,000 jobs were created when it was expected for 175,000 jobs to be created. And that was for the May ADP number. And then April was also revised downward as well. So
they went back.
Correct. They go back and they look at it and they realize that, there was maybe some jobs counted twice or some error in their accounting methods. It looks like, unfortunately, employment is starting to, jobs aren't as hot as they were, the jobs numbers that are coming out. So not great for the economy, but if you are looking to get a lower rate and, kind of waiting for that, it seems like we're starting to move in that direction. I got to find something wood to knock on because, we thought the same thing in December. The Fed pivot we've talked about numerous times where, the Fed basically said they beat inflation. We're good to go going forward. We're going to drop rates 6 times in 2024. Hasn't happened. So at least for right now, it looks like things are moving back the other way. Like I said, in a 1 week period to go from, almost 7.4% on a 30-year fixed mortgage average to down to 7.07%. That's a big drop.
So I do want to say, if you have been sitting on the sidelines and you're a buyer and you're hearing this broadcast and you're hearing on one hand, we're starting to see inventory increase, options increase, bidding wars decrease, interest rates now decreasing. If you're looking to strike while the iron's hot, now's the time.
Absolutely.
Not waiting for another quarter point drop. That's even if it does drop another quarter point, we're not talking about massive dollars.
Right.
Buy while the competition is low. You're going to save probably anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 in a bidding war. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so those are all great things for home buyers. Maybe not so great or not as great for home sellers, but hey, they've gotten their cake and they've eaten it too for the last 2 years with these price increases. So,
but let's be honest, most home sellers are then also home buyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah. So kind of a good way to look at it. If you've been kind of waiting for, not wanting to get in that bidding war, not wanting to pay almost 8% for an interest rate. You know,
I don't blame you.
It's me neither. And it seems like things are kind of moving in that direction in my world, at least.
Isn't 7% the long-term average?
Yeah, it's still the average. If you look at, you know, the historical mortgage rates, right around 7% is still kind of what the average is. So, you know, the 3%, 2% rates that we had in 2021 and, you know,
that was the historical event.
That was it. Yeah,
not the norm.
We may never see that again. In fact, I've been doing this since 2002, and you know, I've talked about it before that, you know, when I first started, the rates came down below 7% the first week I was in the business, and it was like the world was ending because, you know, people were refinancing from 7.9, 8.5, 9% to 6.875, and it was like the best deal ever. And then I remember when it went to 5.875, and again, it was like, holy cow, we'll never see rates this low again. And then now in 2021, when, you know, we're literally doing 2.5% 30-year fixed rates, it's like, okay. But in any case, something to, you know, to kind of think about if you are looking to purchase a home. Doesn't hurt to, you know, give it a shot now when the, you know, when the market's more inventory and rates have crept down a little bit. Then we'll keep updating you weekly on what the rates are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So so that's that. Then real quick, I wanted to also touch on something that I've seen happen several times in the last month, and maybe some home, you know, maybe some people out there don't even realize or understand that this is possible. And it has to do with when you're purchasing a home from a relative. If you know, if it's grandpa's estate, or if it's, you know, a family member that is looking to get rid of their home and you're wanting to purchase it, and you don't have the money available for a down payment, or even if you do, you don't want to put your own money into the transaction, there is a way to do what's called a gift of equity.
Ooh, what's that?
It's basically you're purchasing a home from a family member, and they're giving you a portion of the equity as your down payment. And you could also have them pay for your closing costs. So in a lot of cases, gift of equity transactions, and I've had 3 in the last month come up where it's like, hey, I want to buy this house, you know, and family members willing to give it to me for a slightly, you know, or a significantly lower price than what they could actually sell it for. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. You could do it that way, but if you're just paying what they're, you would have to come up with the money out of pocket. Mm-hmm. But if you buy it so like let's just give an example. So I don't want to confuse anybody. If you're buying a house that's $200,000 from your grandpa, and that's what you agreed on, but the house is worth way more than that, you could actually say, all right, well, this house is worth $250,000. I will buy it from you for $50,000. You only want $200,000. That's what we'd agreed upon. Mm-hmm. I could take that extra $50,000 and use that as my down payment. So now I'm not having to come up with the down payment. That is my down payment. It makes the terms more favorable because now I have 20% equity, so I could avoid PMI. I could look at doing a conventional loan versus an FHA loan or something like that. So it's something that if you're ever in that situation, reach out to a good local loan officer, a good lender that knows what they're doing, and they may be able to save you quite a bit of money. Obviously, there may be some tax implications, so always talk to your accountant, because anytime you're getting a gift, you know, you got to be careful about that. You don't want to get whacked with a big IRS bill next year when, you know, you buy a home, and, you know, you want to be prepared for that if that is the case. Talk to your CPA about that. But if you're ever in a position where you're purchasing a home from a family member and they're giving you a good deal, talk to a lender, because there may be a way for you to buy that home with nothing out of pocket, no closing costs, and get a much better deal than if you were just trying to buy it on your own.
No closing costs.
Well, they're rolled into the loan in essence.
I see.
You know, they're giving you a credit for the down payment, and they could give you a credit if the equity's there. You know, if the house is worth $200,000 and grandpa's selling it to you for $200,000, all bets are off.
Sure.
But in my experience, most of the time when we're dealing with this kind of thing, it's like, I want to help you. I want to give you a good deal. And that's basically, you know, you're taking that good deal and you're making it better. You're making even a better deal for yourself so that you don't have to come up with all this extra money. You don't have to come up with a down payment. You're using the equity that's already in the house for your down payment. So coming up quite a bit lately. So something to think about.
So let me ask a question. Just I don't know if this is a different way to get to the same location or if this is not a thing at all. I'm just curious. If, let's say, Grandpa adds you to title, now you're on title, could you then, at that point, refinance out of grandpa's loan into your loan at, let's say, a 75 or 80% LTV?
You can, but typically you would have had to have been on title for at least a year.
Oh, okay.
So it's not something like if you plan ahead and that's the plan, and talk to a good estate planning attorney, and if grandpa says, hey, I want to leave my grandson my home, that would be the best way to do it, because then the transaction costs, now you're paying closing costs on a refi, not on a purchase.
Right.
But you have to do it, well ahead of time,